Yeah, but I
Just gonna just
wait. You know,
let
ask
somebody-
for forgiveness
Okay.
instead of permission. Okay. All right.
That was my first
But we all do. We all have conflict. Conflict is my life. That's what I do. I do conflict. All right. All right. Scott, you ready? All right. It's 10:01 or 2. I'm going to call the Thursday, March 18th, 2021 meeting of the Airport Advisory Commission to order. Let the record reflect we have Commissioners Burris, Call, and Kintai present. Commissioner Powell called me. He intends to be here. He's just tied up in a video presentation to a state Senate committee. And Commissioner Riley Armstrong will not be with us today. So, having done all that, I will entertain an emotion on the agenda. An emotion, maybe a motion. I'm sorry. All right, so.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Burris and a second by Commissioner Call to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion or debate? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes 3-0. Next up, I will entertain a motion on the approval of the minutes from last month's meeting. I have a motion by Commissioner Call and a second by Commissioner Burris to approve the minutes from the Thursday, February 18th, 2021 meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, passes 3-0. All right. Oops, I didn't bring a pen. Sorry. You guys don't realize how much easier. I have a phone. This is so much easier than city council meetings. Because there's 10 of them. And I have to watch, it's like a kindergarten class. I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Yeah, okay. Mr. Stark.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Mayor. So we'll start with my typical number 5 update of what's going on at the Air Center. I'll start with all the numbers so that your eyes glaze over first, and then we'll go from there. So aircraft operations are still somewhat depressed, as they have been since the COVID pandemic start. We're running about 56% of February 2020, which is still not too bad, I guess, for where we are. That should pick up as it warms up and we start seeing a little more military traffic, and talk a little bit about another detachment coming here in a little bit. Passenger boardings are still running about the same as they had. We had a spike in January of about 84%.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. Let the record reflect Dr. Powell, Commissioner Powell, joined us at 10:06. You missed the exciting approval of the agenda and the minutes. Extensive debate. All motions to amend were defeated, so we're now on to item 5. Go ahead.
Okay, and so for Dr. Powell, we're running 56% of aircraft operations over February of 2020 this month. For passenger boardings, they're down a little bit below January. If you remember, January was about 84% of 2020. This time it's 61% of 2020. So we're down a little bit, but we're coming into the spring break and summer vacation season, so we should see that begin to tick up. Flow fees are still up at 141% of of February 2020. Landing fees also 188% of February 2020. Parking fees have maintained their higher level of 381% of what we had in 2020. So our revenues are doing well. I don't have a number for PFC, but it will float along with the passenger boardings and be about the same as that, since it follows passenger boardings. So it's down a little bit over last year, and will continue to be until our passengers recover. But overall, the revenue at the Air Center is up 358% over 2020. Other operations news that we've had recently, Boeing came in on Tuesday, or Wednesday, I forget, I think it was Tuesday, with a Boeing 777X doing flight testing. They were here all day. They will be coming back mid-April for a week to do more flight testing, so we'll see them again then. New leases, renewals, we've got one renewal for information protective services going to legal next week, and 4 new leases. One for Patty Rodak, which should have gone last month, but it'll be going this month. Gravity Pad Towers, which did go last month and will go back again this month. Chris Lynn is leasing T-Hanger 120-1. That's a new lease, and Kurt Becker also T-Hanger 120-4, and that fills our T-Hangers. We no longer have any vacancies. Air Service, as you know, Phoenix is coming back on April 3rd with a 12 p.m. departure and then a 12 a.m. arrival and spending the night. Our conversation with American, I think, must have sunk in a little bit, because in May it changes. We knew it was going to change to a 6:30ish departure, which it's now published as 6:40 starting on May 6th, with an arrival at 7:34 p.m. instead of midnight, which is what they had looked at before. But we cautioned them that did not work the last time they tried it, so I'm guessing they listened, since it's published as a 7:34 arrival, and then it'll remain overnight and go out the next morning. The bigger announcement is not as big as I would like for it to be, but the Navy is coming this year. It will be another mini-jet. They will have 8 aircraft here from March 23rd through April 7th. That will bring 25 maintenance and IT support along with them, 26 instructor pilots, 36 students. Their goal is to get 472 sorties out of it, and with the way our weather normally works, they probably will exceed that. Most every time they come, they do. So we're ready to welcome them and excited to have them, even if it's a short debt. We're excited to have them at Roswell again. Personnel. Unfortunately, I don't have 2 people to introduce to you this time. I was hoping that I would. Denise Garcia, the Property and Contracts Coordinator, has had some issues with her move to Roswell from Houston, so she's delayed it a couple of weeks. She'll be in next Friday on the 26th. But and I have 3 maintenance positions that are open now. We tried to fill one, didn't accept the position on our offer that we made them, so those are still open. We're doing some more interviews next Friday. And with that all out of the way, I want to introduce Mr. Steve Christopher. Come on up, Steve. Steve's the new deputy director, and he's been here now, well, this is his 3rd week, so he's been here 2 weeks and going on 3. Steve comes from really private industry and a lot of time doing economic development and business development, as well as some government stuff. And with that, I'm going to let him say a little bit about himself. Harrison.
Good morning. The hardest assignment I've had so far is I was just instructed I had to talk about myself. So I'm Steve Christopher. I basically have a background in military, law enforcement, and like I said, like Mr. Stark said, is business development, economic development. I spent the majority of my time economic development in Alaska. I did a lot of work with the native corporations, 8A certifications. And then after September 11th, I did a lot of work with airports because a lot of airports lost their certifications due to the new mandate. So basically I spent 10 to 12 years helping with that, as well as other economic issues. So what I would do is, if I went into the community, they had airport issues, we tried to try everything that we could so they got the most bang for their buck. So I did a lot of the work with the Alaska State Legislature, mostly, like I said, economic projects. And then As far as airfield experience in the military, I was in the unit where we built runways and then we destroyed them. So I got the whole airfield operations down. We have experience. So that kind of helps with here and what I've been doing with Alaska. We've got a good opportunity here. I've been visiting Roswell for 6 years. My mother-in-law's here, which is the reason we're here. But I've always seen the opportunity, and I'd ask questions as I visited. And then now that we've moved here, I've waited and tried to pursue how we can help. So I do want to offer this is I've seen a lot of projects. I've seen a lot of potential. This area has the best potential that I've seen of any of the projects I've worked. And this is why I was really excited to try to get this opportunity. So when things seem rough or whatever, because I've been briefed on the past is this project or this airport has opportunity to grow the county and the city. So as soon as we can, start getting businesses in here, it'll take off. I know it. I've seen it. So with that, does anybody have questions?
Any questions for Mr. Christopher?
Thank you.
Not yet, they'll come.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that is all I have for number 5.
All right, any questions for Mr. Stark? All right. Let's move on to number 6 then.
Okay. Number 6, Air Center Crunch Pad. As I briefed you guys last time, we'd had discussions with Air Sale, and we have some verbal agreement, at least on the price. We're still working through the terms of the lease, so I really don't have much more update than that at this point. I'm hoping to see that accelerate as we move forward and get a lease that they agree to all of the terms, and then we can move forward with going through the funding issues and that sort of thing internal to the city.
Okay. Well, we're hoping we can get moving on that one.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right. Item 7.
And with that, I will introduce Mr. Louis Nahar and Mr. Mike Garcia from Armstrong. Louis, as you know, is from the city, but to talk about the water line project. We were out there yesterday doing some survey work and preparing for that, and I'll let them catch you up on those details.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and Commission, Counselor. Again, we had our kickoff meeting yesterday morning, and as Scott said, we did do some surveying. So as you look at your slide, we actually drove and walked the blue line, which is phase 1, and we also the green line, which is the last phase, which we're still under consideration if it's not going to be part of phase 1 because you need to start off with your volume of water coming straight out of the tank. But I'm very excited. Armstrong is strong in what they're doing. Our other consultants, the team, and we have Wilson and Company doing the surveying and HDR doing the hydraulics. But we were off to a good start. Lorenzo Sanchez, utility director, was there as well. So I'm very confident we're off to a good start and it's going to progress very smoothly.
Okay. Do we have any timelines on this? What we think will be our next major?
Morning. Good to see everybody. Timelines. Right now, it'll take a little time, obviously, laying the groundwork. As everybody knows, you gotta survey the area. The surveyors, Wilson and Company, is a member of our team, and we gave them direct guidance, call it, to get out there ASAP. To be quite honest with you, they have yesterday, like Mr. Nahar said, is we did lay out the preliminary line. So off of that, they'll get the survey done. And we're hoping in the next 2 weeks to have the survey completed. It'll take them a little time because, there's a lot of work to be done in that area for surveying. And then once we get that, we'll coordinate with HDR to get the modeling started. And as Mr. Nahar said, we'll coordinate with him and Mr. Sanchez to get everything rolling as far as the hydraulics and the layout of the actual pipeline.
Okay. Right. Questions, commissioners? Are we going, that goes right by hangar 91, right? That blue line, that is 91.
Goes behind 91.
Yeah, is that going to, is 91 going to be served by this new line?
We'll be tying into anything that we encounter as we go along.
Okay,
As we were walking it, we saw blue lines and the blue stakes. So we'll probably have 3 or 4 connections that we could tell just walking around. The one thing that made me excited is the alignment. Once you get off of Earl Cummins, loop to the east and staying north of all the buildings, then once we went in there, it's easy digging. Easy digging translates to cheaper installation costs. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll be able to do phase 1 and the last phase within this project scope of work and funding. And again, the hydraulics will tell us how far we can go with the money that we have.
gotcha. FAA approval, review, what's that look like?
The only, as far as the FAA goes, when we laid out the water line, we laid it beyond what they call the Mausers, which is the lead-in lights, you guys know. So as far as that goes, that won't be any problem. The only thing that we have, again, is when Mr. Nahat put that water line going to Sky, is a safety plan. And that will be, once the documents are almost ready to be bid, then Armstrong will take care of the FAA part of that.
Okay. Very cool. All right, once again, anything? Go ahead.
So, just looking at this, is there any planned disruption to the runway where it's going to be off of the end of the approach?
No, sir. We will make sure that, again, as far as where it's at, we'll work with the FAA on the approaches. And, the good thing is this isn't really vertical, so the water lines are down, so there shouldn't be any issues other than construction activity.
Thank you.
Okay. Another quick question popped into my head. Any more interest in extending, this is more for Mr. Nahar, water service, city water service to those residences to the east of Weil Road? I know we have about a dozen customers now.
We have about a dozen customers. We did, as the alignment, as we get closer to the east of Mystic and where their gate is, that's where we'll be making the tie to that system. There is no interest that I've heard of personally for more water, but once it's there, I'm sure we'll get more interest and
Okay,
other stuff that the city's involved with.
okay, fair enough. Good deal. Well, let's do another update next month. If you guys don't mind. And now,
Also, I wanted to add one quick thing that they didn't mention, is at this point, it looks like because of where that line is going to go, there will be no interruption to operations while the construction project is going on. It's outside of the runway safety area, and should be outside of everything else that we would deal with, other than possibly if the weather goes down below certain minimums, it could interfere with the ILS, but we'll get to that at that point. But I think if there's any interference with operations, it should be minimal.
okay, good deal.
Okay.
All right.
Number 10.
8.
Oh, number 8.
Don't get
All right, I
ahead.
skipped ahead. So
Don't do that.
come join me. So Juanita's gonna catch us up. I don't think there's a heck of a lot of update here, but she does have a flashy video to show you guys.
Good morning, Mayor and members of the committee. Not a big update from last time, just some collateral material and a video to show you that they'll be using at the MRO conference. You click the little button at the bottom. Thank you. So this video will be presented during the booth display as people are walking by. They'll also give the mayor and Scott some talking point opportunities of our best assets, our 13,000 runway, our unlimited, well, I wouldn't say unlimited, but lots of opportunity for leases and hangar space and the potential for the maintenance for all of the planes that we currently have out there. It will tie into this collateral piece that we'll be using. Oops, let me show you. This is the booth display, so you'll see the video there in the back. They'll have the table and the chair. This is the actual pieces of furniture that they'll have. We do have to buy carpet. That's a little bit expensive, but it's worth it because they'll be standing for a lot of hours and talking to lots of people, hopefully. This is the backdrop of the booth display, so it correlates to the video. You'll also see the same design with the brochure that I'm about to show you. We decided to take the brochure that was done last year and redesign it into a square piece, something not like a rack card or a trifold. Again, we're competing with thousands of other competitors that will be there, so hopefully it'll be an odd shape and it will stand out a little bit more. So this backdrop, which you can kind of see, you'll see it'll have lighting, will also be similar to the actual brochure of the marketing collateral piece. This piece was taken from last year's, and we just tweaked it a little bit to engage with the current new brand and logo of the Roswell Air Center, colors and the feel of what we're trying to sell out there. And that's what I have to present. Not a whole lot of update, but this is what we've worked on so far.
This is awesome. I'm like,
Thank you.
no, this is really, I am so impressed and really appreciative of you and your team.
And it's really important to share. I don't do this by myself. I do have a really great team that helps put this together, and I'm lucky enough to get to represent them and present to you guys.
I shared with Ms. Jennings a while back that as far as this whole effort went, she was the director and Mr. Stark and I were simply the actors. She tells us where to go, what to do, what to wear, what to say, the whole 9 yards. And so that's, this is awesome. Yes.
Thank you. With their booth space, they'll also have kind of a wheel that they'll be taking to give away just some goodies, the things that I shared with you last time, and also building their leads list, building a contact list to actually garner the business. So that's really important, and I'm just really excited for you guys to be there and can't wait to hear all the feedback. So.
Okay, very cool. Let the record reflect that Mr. Micah Spiritu joined us at 10:26. Mr. Spiritu is going to be joining the commission in the April meeting, which we'll be discussing the date and time. I really appreciate you coming because I want you to be part of this discussion so we can fit it into everybody's schedule. On the MRO, let me just throw out a thought, and Mr. Stark, we've got, and we're going to talk about them in a little bit, we got two major projects kind of almost ready to go forward. That's the large hangar project and the doghouse on 84. And I'm hesitant to promote those until we have something in writing, but I would really love to be able to promote those at the MRO to show. Thank you. Excellent choice of words. Your thoughts on this, and commissioners?
I think kind of what Steve and I have talked about is because some of this stuff is so last minute, reference the April timeframe on the MRO, that probably what we'll wind up doing is some sort of a fact sheet for each one of those projects that we'll have out on the table so we can share what we're doing. We can always put up concepts and that type of thing into videos or stuff that's up on the wall, and I'll defer to Juanita for those kind of ideas, but those things we have, the renderings and those type of things we can always put up, but when we talk about anything that we want to hand out, I mean, it's going to be kind of last minute.
So one
Go for it.
One opportunity, I'm going to show you the Phoenix Flight marketing campaign, but next month I should be showing you the economic development campaign for the Air Center. And so it'll incorporate some of those pieces that we are developing that will be beneficial not only to Mr. Stark, but also to the EDC and to Christopher Moore, who just joined the Air Center family in their mission to acquire new business out at the Air Center.
Okay, well, I'd like to know people are ahead of me. Anything else on,
Yeah, I did want to mention the other thing that Steve and I are doing. We've begun our homework, if you will, for now. The idea is that when we go there, and we've kind of discussed this a little bit before, is we want to have an idea of who we want to talk to. So we're going through the attendee list at this point and kind of looking to target some companies and some people and get some idea of who's important, and then we'll work that down into an appointment list if we can get appointments with any of those folks. And sit down and talk with them and share what our vision is and what the opportunities are at the Air Center.
there's concern that this is not going to be anywhere near as, say, what Atlanta was 2 years ago because of some constrictions, but things are changing daily around the nation, so I don't think we know what we're going to experience. But, all right. And if there's nothing else, move on to item number 8. 9. That was a test. You all passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I'm super excited to share this with you because we hadn't talked about Phoenix in a very long time, and it's a great asset for our community. And so we are going to hit it really hard starting March 29th to ensure that the flight is successful. And when I say March 29th, that's the campaign, not the actual flight. So I'm here today to present you our actual campaign that we will be running. The goal, obviously, and the messaging is we really want to target a quick getaway with affordable adventure and a chance to see some really spectacular places. We have met, our group met with the city of Village of Ruidoso and also with City of Alamogordo, and they are willing to partner with us on this. You're also going to see some opportunities where we'll share White Sands and Carlsbad Caverns. So this is our first run of the banner ads. It's Land in Roswell and Visit New Worlds. You will see that we will display White Sands, and then the piece, when a banner ad runs, it's very quick, so it's like a 15-second on a computer screen or on a mobile device. Land in Roswell and then visit White Sands, land in Roswell and visit Carlsbad Caverns, land in Roswell and visit Bottomless Lake State Park. And then the next one is hopefully they're going to click on that and go and book their flight, promoting flyroswell.com and the American Airlines partnership. These are a couple of other ones that will say land in Roswell, cool off. We'll have one for Ruidoso, land in Roswell, and again, book your trip, a nice getaway. The print ads, a world of affordable adventure. One of the things with COVID is we understand that money is a little bit tighter than it was, but we also recognize that people are ready to travel, and we want people to understand that Roswell is an affordable destination. And so with this, land in Roswell, visit New Worlds. Some of the copy in here is going to talk a little bit about our golf courses, our parks, the shopping. Again, White Sands, Carlsbad, making a weekend getaway in a regional area, taking our flight. And here's land in Roswell, expand your universe. Again, tying in some of our assets with the copy, and then visit flyroswell.com to book your flight. Social media, no place else is like Roswell, and this is close to home. So this will be on some Google ads as well as some other social media outlets. This kind of shows you how it will play into this one. We're just using Facebook as an example, but it'll also be included on Instagram and Twitter. It's land in Roswell, visit new cultures. So we're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about some of our festivals because we have UFO Festival coming up. The campaign will overlap that a little bit. And you can kind of see some of the graphics in here. While we are presenting a regional area, we want to make sure that people know to take the flight. And so all of the call to actions will be directing them to flyroswell.com. And these are just some of the examples that they will see. The overall media plan with some of the creative that I just showed you, is one, to create awareness that we have the new direct flight back from Roswell to Phoenix, Phoenix to Roswell. We want to generate interest, and ultimately, we want to book the flight and have ridership. The media placement budget is about $67,000, and we're using the grant funding that we currently have. Of course, with taxes, the campaign dates will run from March 29th through June 27th. Again, this was our strategy, and I felt it was important to share this with you. Digital is our cost-effective purchase and buy, but we also had to consider some of the print opportunities in the Phoenix area. I'm going to show you the strategies that we're using, which includes Phoenix Magazine and then the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, because they were affordable. Our buy, normally, we cannot be in Phoenix Sky Harbor, but due to COVID, our media agency worked a really great buy. Our current purchase is 60% less than what we normally would spend. So this was our recommendation. I won't go through all of these, but the target audience is Phoenicians in roughly age 25 to 55, couples with and without children, with a household income of $70,000 or more, looking for a weekend getaway or any type of quick trip, extended weekend, and outdoor adventure. Interest in flying, and then booking a room if they're looking for travel. So especially when they're using their social media, if they're looking for, it's kind of like Big Brother spying on you when you use your mobile phone, that ad for Fly Roswell is going to pop up because they were searching for a weekend getaway. And then it's going to say, oh, you want a weekend getaway? Land in Roswell. And so we're going to use that to our advantage and really target those individuals that are searching those topics. The product mix, you'll see we have display, we have social, we have print, and then of course the outdoor billboard. So metro area is about 1 million people in Phoenix, which is a large target segment for us. Even if we captured 10%, I'd be really happy with that. Again, this is Phoenix Magazine, so the print ads that you saw. The great thing about this is that Phoenix Magazine is getting ready to put out their editorial. It's a summer getaway subscription, and so our agency and I spoke with the editor to see if we could also have a feature on Roswell, so an editorial piece that will accompany the advertisement buy. We plan to purchase a full page ad, and so hopefully those two will marry very nicely, and we will see some return on that investment. That issue will be the May and June issue, and I'll make sure that you guys all each get a copy of that as well. It will accompany a digital buy on phoenixmagazine.com. Phoenix Magazine is a very popular subscription. I guess the best one I don't even know one locally that would be similar to it, but I think of like Albuquerque Business First would kind of be a similarity to Phoenix Magazine, or even Albuquerque the magazine. But we're going to accompany the print ad with the digital because a lot of people in Phoenix get their stuff on a mobile device, not an actual hard copy. So we're going to target both the digital and the print. And in addition to that, because of our purchase, we're getting a value add of an e-blast, which will be deployed to 31,000 subscribers with a specific targeted message to land in Roswell and book your flight on flyroswell.com. So we're really excited about this opportunity. And then the other recommendation that we have is the airport media. Again, our last program when we advertised in Phoenix, that was in part due to our partnership with the state of New Mexico. Normally, we cannot afford to be in the Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. The costs are just really too high for our budget. But because of COVID, we're going to take advantage of the 60% savings that we're going to get. It'll be a 3-month program. We're going to run April, May, and June. We'll have 40 units that will rotate at the baggage claim. And when I say units, it's when our commercial spot will continue to be running. Will also be in their directory as well as their escalator digital unit. So I'll show you a little bit of what those look like. This is the TV monitor at the baggage claim when people are picking up their bags. This is the bag claim banner. You'll see the one in the middle. That's the one that we will purchase. And then this is the directory, so this will be a digital display, so our ad will also be running when people are looking at a directory. Maybe they want to go eat somewhere or they're waiting for their flight. And then this one I'm really excited about. This is the escalator banner. We would never be able to really afford this opportunity, so I'm super excited to have this. It'll be in Terminal 3, and we'll have it for 3 months, and people will get to view this as they're riding the escalator. So we're taking advantage of the current COVID situation and scooping up these great deals for our Phoenix flight. And hopefully I will be able to present to you in August some really great numbers.
Okay. Questions, comments? Hop in.
The concepts for the magazine, for the Phoenix magazine, I wonder what it would be to have that same kind of exposure like in the American Way magazine.
Yeah, we can look at that.
Now, funding for this is coming from the state, from the city, from,
The funding is coming currently from the lodger's tax budget in public affairs, specifically allocated for the Phoenix flight.
Okay.
It's Phoenix marketing, and then what we do is I don't know if this one will be eligible for grant reimbursement. So we spend the money, and then we get the money back at 50%. So.
okay. Because we had budgeted this for FY '21 for the Phoenix flight originally.
Correct, yes. So
Okay. Was
that
it-
money's been sitting there. So when I say it's 67,000, I'm not going to have to ask the council for funding because it's allocated for specifically Phoenix.
I was thinking about that. That might be the case. All right. Other questions, comments? You're blowing me away there, Ms. Jennings. I mean, this is
We've been busy.
awesome. This really is. This is a level of sophistication that we need to have, and this is huge. Now, I'm thinking, Mr. Stark, we turn Ms. Jennings loose with kind of an MRO-themed thing and run it in Victorville.
I still want to put a sign up at Mojave that says, "Why are you here?"
We can work on that. I like that idea. Something like it. All right, other questions, comments? Mr. Spiritu, you can jump in here if you wish to.
I'm good at this point, sir. Thank you.
You're figuring out how to work the buttons?
Well, I just pushed it once and it works. I'm actually golden. Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. We really appreciate you. All right. Item number 10.
Now to number 10. The update for the Hangar 84 project USDA grant is actually the same as it was last month. We're still working on numbers with EDA. I had about an hour-long conversation with their engineer to make sure that I understood exactly what numbers they need, and they're pretty much in the weeds. I think I explained last month, but when you look at the 424 application, 424C application page, it lines out the different pieces of the project, and they're really at a high level. And so what they're asking for is to get some in the weeds numbers, what the AC cost, what the electricity cost, what the fire suppression cost, what the building cost. So it's a little more difficult to get without disqualifying anyone you talk to from the bid, on the procurement side. So I've been working with Mr. Massey since that was his previous life in that business to get those numbers, and we'll have them by the end of the month when they're due.
Okay. Okay, I want to open this up. This is going to get to be a kind of a discussion I think we should all be really jumping into. This project and the, shall we say, sibling project of the large hangar are both hanging out there. And just so everyone knows, the latest version of capital outlay, or the final version of the capital outlay bill, which is House Bill 285, came down the pike. Legislature adjourns in about 49 hours and 20 minutes, not that I'm counting. There is no money for the Air Center in this capital outlay. There had been proposals or requests for millions of dollars to do work at the Air Center. We didn't get any of that, neither did the county. So what we are working with is the $5 million appropriation that came down last calendar year, and we are the water line project is part of that. So $5 million, we had to commit 5% by February 25th, and we've accomplished that because of the work that Armstrong is doing with the city on running a new water line over to 1066, with the alert facility now occupied by Mystic. We still have, we had an extensive meeting on Monday with the president of Ascent, who was in town, and talked about future plans. You want to summarize where we're at with that one? Because I want the commission to come up to speed, because like I said, they're all tied together. And rather than me do the report, why don't you share?
Sure. So pretty much where we are with Ascent is Ascent and Western LLC, as you remember, were working on a deal for Western to build the building and then to lease it back to Ascent. Due to financial considerations, they could not agree on that deal. So Ascent is still very serious about this project, and always were. They basically said from the beginning that if they couldn't agree with Western, that they would build it themselves, and that's where we are. So Ascent has been talking to Rubb about building a Rubb hangar.
You want to tell them what Rubb is?
For those who don't know, basically it's similar to the Sky Hangar. It's a large cloth hangar, and these things are not temporary buildings, they're permanent buildings. They last a long time, they're used all over the world. So we're open-minded to that sort of thing, and as opposed to a metal building. It saves Ascent a lot of money, and they can proceed a little bit quicker. So I won't say we're back to square one, but maybe 1A, 1B. We've had to back up again a little bit and start talking about the project with Ascent now in the lead instead of Western in the lead, and those have gone very well. They're very serious about it. We're talking to Armstrong for the site civil, so they'll be doing that part of it. So basically, as we like to say, the horizontal is Armstrong's and the vertical is Ascent's. So it comes down to kind of three pieces to this project now. You've got the horizontal, which Armstrong will design and head up the bidding and inspection process and all of that. That'll include parking lot, ramp space, and the slab. On the money side of that, we have $3 million at this point out of the $5 million that the state had granted to us. We still have not fleshed out the rest of it. That site civil is about an $8 million piece, so we have some options, and we'll work through those, but we haven't formalized that yet. Mr. Mayor.
That did very well. Thank you.
Okay, you look like you needed to say something.
No, I think the reality is we have two projects that are critical to the enhancement and the growth of this air center. One, the full-blown large hangar project, and the enhancement to an existing facility, the doghouse on Hangar 84. Each has its positives and each has its negatives. The large hangar obviously gives us the ability, this facility, the ability to accommodate work on larger aircraft and or multiple aircraft. The doghouse does allow for a larger aircraft, but in many ways it's a simpler project because it involves just the city-owned structure. City is the entity putting this together. We would contract with one company. The other side, we've got more players involved. Not that any of these players are, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about them. It's just that, as we all know, the more people involved, the more complicated it gets. And I think that's one of the things we saw with the Western aspect of this. That fell apart. And so my concerns there is the complexity on the large hangar, but then both of them will need some infusion of capital from us being the Roswell Air Center. What does that mean and what does that look like is something we're going to have to look into seriously. Now, having said that, there's all kinds of things floating around out there. There's this new American Rescue Plan bill that was signed into law. We don't have details. We don't know. We've heard rumblings that Roswell will qualify for something like $11 million. Well, what does that mean, and how can it be spent, and what does it be used for? Don't know. There's some money in that for airports. What does that mean? How much is that, and how much would come to Roswell? We don't know. So there's lots of questions out there that need to be resolved. And we're going to have to stay on top of this every month, because the EDA grant is the closest one, I would argue, to us actually having control of funds or a serious, solid commitment. Because if the EDA signs off and makes the grant award, that's $2 million. The $3 million we talk about for the large hangar is a verbal discussion involving the state and the county and the city. But we have no written agreement yet. So this is fluid.
Yeah, those are things that still need to be worked out. And then as, you know, you're talking about us having, you know, money that we have control of as well. So just kind of to review and talk about what has happened up to this point with COVID pandemic money. We got $1.2 million. That grant we signed and started receiving in the summer, but we signed it in April. And so that one we've been working on and getting reimbursements on. It's got when the second round of stimulus came out, airports got another grant as well. Ours was about $1 million. We have not received that grant offer back yet. We did get the application, and word from FAA is that it's just a matter of time. They got a lot of paperwork to process. We'll get it. And as the mayor said, we anticipate another round of that funding coming for the airport as well, but don't know what those numbers are yet. The piece of that for us is the first two grants, the 1.2 and the $1 million, are specifically slated for operations and debt service. So that's what we'll use them for. But if we don't have to use our money that we had budgeted for those things, we can repurpose that to somewhere else. So that may be a resource for us as well. As these grants come in for operations, we can shift other money out of operations into capital. But those discussions still have to be done.
So I'd love to hear from you folks, thoughts on this whole situation. Mike, you want to jump in here?
Well, I just want to go back to one thing, if I may, Scott. I know the answer, but for the group, we've had some challenges with the Sky hangar being a fabric hangar. Could you please mention the difference with the RUB building in regards, because there will be a discussion based on it. Can you mention that, please?
No, you're right. You're spot on. And we've talked about that internally, that the difference is really the issue that we had with the Sky hangar. It was designed properly. It should have stood up to the wind that occurred. But the issue was when they assembled it, the spec for the tension cables on that hangar were 3/4 inch tension cables, and they installed 3/8 inch tension cables. And that was the reason for the failure. So realistically, the rebuild of the Sky hangar is in the same shape as a RUB hangar would be, and we're not going to have any issues with that. Is that what you were thinking? That's what we've talked about that internally, and we know that that's going to be a perception that we have to make sure that we're clear on. But we should have no troubles at all with the RUB hangars. They've held up to these type of winds in lots of other places, and in much more difficult conditions in Alaska and overseas in the Middle East and places like that.
And if I recall correctly, it's a 20-year minimum guarantee at the structure.
Correct.
And it's up to 120-mile-an-hour winds. Hopefully, after this week, we won't see any more of those. But it sounds
Till
like
next year.
But it appears to be a solid structure. I personally have experience with these systems in Saudi Arabia and in South America and other places in the world that I've been to. So they are a reliable system. Companies out of Norway, I believe, is their corporate
Yes.
headquarters.
Yes.
They have offices in the U.S., so thank you for that.
Yep.
Dr. Powell, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, I think, at least from our perspective and the word we're getting, the time to use the funding that's going to come from the beds is going to be 2023, so it's going to be an extended time period for this second or third round of CARES Act funding.
Okay.
So whatever comes out, you'll have a longer time to plan for, and there's, at least on the higher ed side, there's less restrictions, less guidelines on what you can specifically use them.
Okay.
And the same is true on the airport money. The first grant we got was 4-year grant, and the second one I'm expecting to be the same. So you expect that same time frame to just continue rolling forward.
Okay. Commissioner Call, any thoughts on this? Okay, I'll swing in the sense of you got to if you increase the heat, molasses moves quicker. All right, Mr. Commissioner Burris. All right. Yeah, this is going to be a huge deal because we're talking two major projects. So, okay.
I think the timing, it's unfortunate that a pandemic was what caused it, but the timing of the grants and the opportunities that we see in the MRO world really marry very well together. So I think us taking advantage of that is just a matter of planning and making it work out. That influx of cash is going to be enormous.
Okay. Next up is item number 11, dates and time of future meetings. And I'd like to throw out a couple concepts. One would be to simply move this meeting from the morning of the third Thursday to the afternoon of the third Thursday. And Thursday just seemed to be an easy day for everybody. Another alternative would be to move it to the first Thursday in the afternoon. First Thursday, currently the Finance Committee of the City Council meets in here. Doing it in the afternoon would move it before the City Council meeting. So if there is action taken, it could be placed on the agenda of the council. Or to give a little more time to staff, move it back to the first Tuesday. Now, the problem with the first Tuesday is that in April, the first Tuesday occurs 2 days before the council meeting, and nothing would be able to get on the agenda. But that only occurs, I think, twice a year in most years. So, thoughts? You want to jump in there, Mike?
I think it's important to give staff the opportunity to look into and the actions that we are considering to be fair to them. I think it would be unfair to give them a short amount of time to come up with some recommendations if we do have a presentation to the full council.
So your preference is?
I would probably like to give them at least a couple of weeks. So I would suggest if you time it, if it's at least a couple of weeks before a city council meeting, that gives them enough time to prepare, obviously,
Okay.
and for adequate presentation to the city council.
So that would, if we go to the afternoon of the third Thursday, that would mean it would be 3 weeks before the next city council in most cases. There'd be an occasional time when it would be a 4-week break, but that's rare. I think it's twice a year also.
So
We're looking at afternoon of the third Thursday. How does that work for you, Mr.
I think it works fairly well. It's not much different than what we're doing now. The only thing that is still a little bit tight right now, and with that would be a little bit tighter, is if we want to put it on the legal agenda for the very next week. So, they ask for agenda items and packet items to be in on Wednesday. So basically this week it would have been yesterday at 3. And so if we have something comes out of this commission to go to legal next week, I'm going, Parker, please. And he's always good about it. But the thing is, we're already tight, and if we do the afternoon, it's going to be that much tighter. Then we really just have Friday to get it in. Legally, we have to have it in on Monday, but we want to make sure that we have time for everybody to do what they need to do.
Okay. Mr. Patterson, your thoughts on that very issue?
Yeah, I think that Thursday afternoon will work. I usually am putting the agenda together on Friday, and although I tell people to get it in earlier, I kind of do that because I know that it'll be several days later than when I tell them. So it's pretty typical for me to be receiving items on the Friday as I put it together. But yeah, Friday afternoon is kind of my drop dead. Sharon would have my hide if I tried to do it on the Monday when it's actually legally due.
Okay, fair enough. So, this is an action item, so I will entertain a motion to establish the committee meeting as the afternoon, say 1:30, on the third Thursday of the month. So this would mean our next meeting would be April 15th at 1:30, if there is a motion to that effect. I have a motion from Commissioner Call and a second from Commissioner Powell to change the meeting time to 1:30 on the third Thursday of the month. Same location. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Passes 4-0. Okay. Good deal. Item 12. Potential agenda items for April. As I got my list, but I'm going to listen. I'm going to ask you guys. Somebody said that I tend to dominate this a little bit, so. Wait, I heard laughter out there. I'll have you removed. I like that.
Okay, so let me clarify a little. That's actually probably good timing. So the first full week of April, the FAA will be here to do our Part 139 inspection. During that time frame,
Why don't you explain what that means?
Okay, for those who don't know. Thank you. So every year we have to have our airport inspected to make sure that we're still in compliance with our airport certificate for commercial service. That's really what that is. So they come out and they look through our records, our training records and our maintenance records, and they look through the physical airport to make sure it all is still in compliance. But lucky for us, our airport inspector is also the regional compliance officer. So he's going to come out and do that inspection. One day during that week, he will also have a meeting with us about OMA. He's got some questions he needs to ask, and I've already set up the meeting with Mr. Fuentes. And so we should have a report coming out of that meeting. So that should be very timely for this one.
Okay. So I got OMA on the list. Anything else? Commissioner Call? Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
Because by 9, we will have started the service, and we'll get some kind of it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Question first, and then a consideration for the April meeting. Will we be having some attendance to the Beat Hunt Air Service virtual show at the end of March to talk about the flight to Denver, which could lead to an item for us to consider at our April meeting?
We do. We have some meetings scheduled that actually we've just done this week, and I haven't been able to talk about the schedule just yet. But yes, we do have that scheduled.
You want to explain what that is?
So the Meet and Hunt conference is a conference that brings all the airlines together to talk about future travel destinations. And we as a community have attended those on a regular basis last year. Scott and I did attend that in person in Phoenix. We actually was pre-COVID, so it was right at the very first week of March. As a result of that conference, we visited with several airlines and shared our wish to provide service to Denver. And in those meetings, because it was pre-COVID, it was right on the brink. Things were starting to break down already with the airlines, that they kind of put everything on I will say a back burner, if you will. But
That's pretty much it.
So knowing that this conference is happening again, and it was a good conference because we were absolutely able to talk to the airlines themselves, all the ones that had interest in Roswell as a point moving towards a Denver location. So I think if we were attending that event and it's virtual, the end of this month, that it would be a good idea to find out what was a result of those actions, to be able to talk about that at our next meeting as an update
Sure,
for that
absolutely.
Denver flight that
So-
we've been talking about for quite some time.
So
That's excellent.
the virtual conference is the last week of this month. And then the meetings, which I just got the schedule yesterday, so I said I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. I just got the schedule yesterday. Those meetings will be the same week as our inspection, so the week of the 5th. There's several meetings scheduled over there, and we'll be talking to the same airlines you and I talked to last year, and adding Amazon to that as well. So that would be American, United, SkyWest. Actually, we're leaving Sun Country out because, and adding Amazon instead, and then Allegiant. So we'll be talking to all of them.
Thank you. Anything else? That leads me to something I'm going to ask to be put on that we've not talked before, and that would be upgrading the IT capacity in that conference room. Because the second floor conference room, currently, we just have a projector. We don't have a large screen, and, we have the camera on the trifold, or whatever you would call that.
Right.
Not saying we want it done by then, but I'd like to see if we could start talking about that, because, and how we pay for it is going to be an obvious question, but we have some funding now, and it would be nice for that to become more of a state-of-the-art facility. I'm thinking of the conference rooms in City Hall, that we have the ability to do these meetings better, and, because we've had a couple that, they were okay, but it's still much better if you have the modern screens, so.
And that's been on my to-do list, so that'll come up again as
Well,
we work through.
You
budget.
now have an extra pair of hands.
I do.
And I'm looking at Mr. Christopher back there, so
And-
you don't have to do everything, Scott.
And Jeff's got a ton of money, so he can just write a check.
This is a lot easier than city council meetings, I'm telling you. Oh, my gosh. Okay, so we got those. That's going to be a key thing. Another thing that we're going to need to start working on, and Mr. Stark and Mr. Christopher and I discussed this yesterday, is we put on hold the whole leasing program at the Air Center, and what leases look like, how leases are reviewed. One of the oddities that I was discussing with the city manager is that leases go to the city council from the Air Center. Why? Especially like a T-hanger lease, which is not very much money, but city manager could approve it. He approves other leases. So the question is, why do we have to do all these large? And I'm not saying, this would be a question Mr. Patterson maybe needs to look at, or maybe something in the indenture document or something in the FAA that requires the governing body to approve, and if that's the case, that's the case. But I'd like to have a little more detail on the leases reviewed by this group, so we can look at it. And then an overall leasing plan would.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Mr. Christopher and I have talked about that, and this policy's been in effect now, the current property management policy, since 2017. Does that sound right? I think so. But at any rate, it's time to review it, and we've since gone and amended our minimum standards and our rules, so there's going to be some conflicts in there, and that'll be the minimum that we do, is clean those up. And that would be house cleaning, but it's an opportunity for us also to dovetail any of this discussion of the process of how a lease gets from the negotiation between the Air Center and tenants and all the way through the approval process. And so those things could get written into there, and so we could do that as one item if you want to do, but my intention at this point is to go through that policy and bring a draft up next month Mr. Christopher will present it, and it goes where it goes.
Okay. Mr. Patterson?
Okay, so I think, first of all, I would say that if I'm recalling the resolution that created this body in the first place, it does specifically talk about that the commission shall not represent the city in any negotiation with any tenant or third party in a contract related to the air center. So at a minimum, if we want to go in that direction, it would probably require amending the current resolution to clarify that question.
What about reviewing them, though?
Sure, I mean, you could review them, but if you wanted to make any change with them, or if you wanted the person that it was with to come to the commission and talk with you about what's in there, and now you're basically negotiating the contract. So,
Yeah.
I think that I think that if you're going to review and have a discussion about what's in it and what needs to be in it, at least needs to be clarified, the capacity of this commission with regard to that and the existing resolution, I would think.
Okay, let's look at that. I don't like the idea of negotiating in public,
Right.
obviously, but taking a look-see and, we got the property management plan, that being reviewed. And then one of the other things we did talk about was the language of the leases. Do we need to update that, the boilerplate stuff there? Do we really need it the way it is, or should it be something better? We never got around to that when we had Mr. Kunkel and Mr. Armstrong with us, although we had talked about it. So I'm thinking to pick that up and really jump into that. So if we don't get into the individual leases, I'm not that concerned. I'm more concerned about our framework, and then maybe just an update on who's the tenants are.
Okay.
I mean, and anything we approve as far as changes to the plan or the leases, the council ultimately has to bless, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd like to, this body, to me, this is where the work gets done, like what was done with Section 5 or Chapter 5 of the ordinance. That was a lot of work, and I really appreciated that. So, anything else we want to throw on the plate? Dr. Powell, looking at you, at some point, we might want to call on you to talk about your program at the college and what the status is of that. I'm not going to hit you with that in April, but can you be thinking about maybe doing something in May or bring somebody from your staff, either you or a staff member in May? You want to do it in April? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, this is, okay. Behave yourself, Mr. Conley, I'll have you removed. All right, anything else? We got enough work? All right, welcome, Mr. Spiritu. Thank you, Commissioner Burris. All right, and Matt McDonald will be joining us next month, and which is a good thing. Anything else? All right, we have public participation. We have Mr. Conley. Come on down, Mr. Conley. Don't fall over. Have you been drinking again before? This is so much.
Larry Conley, 2815 in Cantal. First of all, I apologize for being late, but I was on time. I went to the airport, and you guys weren't there. And, I've been in the house for 337 straight days, so. I'd like to add to Jim Burris, say something about it. I don't even know if this group was together, but I remember Jim Burris cleaning up South Main with a crew out to the airport. And I mean, before he did that, that was a total embarrassment to the city. So if anything, he should get an award for that person. Okay. Second, Dr. Powell. I just, while I was sitting, Juanita's deal was great. I loved it. But was any mention about your program in there? Maybe, but you have a department that could put together maybe a 2-minute deal that they could show on the, when they're in the MRO,
It is mentioned in the handout material.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is,
Agreed.
Agreed.
It's an integral part of what we do.
yeah. Just right there, Other than that, welcome the new commissioners. It's nice to see you, and thank you for doing this. It's been great.
All right, thank you. Uh-oh, only one thing?
Only one thing.
All right, thank you. Armstrong, you want to jump in here? Mike, you guys got anything you want to add? All right, Air Sale, you want to jump in here? All good there? You guys are busy. Very busy, okay. Oh. All right, you got to come back up here and do it again because of the microphone. You're cutting into lunchtime here, Larry, so you better walk faster.
What is the status of the T-hangers?
Ah.
I remember Western,
Okay.
when they first came, they talked about,
I was actually approached by someone last Friday. We will not be able to discuss this in a public meeting, but Mr. Stark is getting me that package, and we're going to send it off to that person who approached me Friday.
okay, but
Good question, though.
Western interested in
No, they weren't. It's too small a project for them.
Okay. All right, unless there's some other matter. Going once? I got 11:15. We are adjourned.